Okay, welcome to Into the Channel podcast, primarily about women's football. I am your host, Dino Decespedes, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Mr. Grant Engle. What is up, man?
I'm feeling fantastic, buddy. It's good for the Sleepy Boys podcast to return. Plenty of NWSL action to discuss. Plenty of things to look forward to. I'm just excited to get into it with you.
I already feel myself in a little bit of a Sleepy Boys After Dark, tone and timbre. Just, we're creeping up on a Wednesday morning here on the West Coast, but that's all right. Still got some energy. We're midweek and we're heading down the playoff stretch, man. I think it's so many things have been flipped upside down. Like I was thinking earlier today just about Orlando, Seattle. There was a point where as Orlando, Seattle followers, we were kind of flying high. And now it just seems like every team, has sort of been in and maybe on the edge of the playoff mix, except for maybe Washington and KC. Those might be the only two. And on the bottom half, you have a little bit of the same. But it's just been a wild, second half of the season. And I don't know if you did this, but looking at everybody's schedules, everybody's got 5 matches left. Looking at everybody's schedules, I'm just like, oof, that's a tough 5. It doesn't matter what 5 is on there. It's just like everybody seems like they have a loaded last 5 to kind of close it out.
Yes, and there would be, if you look at that last 5, for some teams, there was a point in the season where you could have looked at that last 5 and been like, okay, you could come away with a good amount of points out of that 5. So it's just constant twists and turns in this league.
Yeah. I don't know who I'm thinking about. I'm like, ooh, at Chicago and versus Utah, that's no big.
Yeah.
The team's playing well. What are you gonna do? All right, man. Well, match week 22. Wow, here we go. A lot to cover this weekend. Where do you want to get started?
Let's get started with a beverage, my good man. I think we've earned it. It's been a long week. Wait a minute. Yep. It's Tuesday night. It's still been a long week.
It's been a Tuesday. Cheers.
Yes. Cheers to you. Cheers to the football. I'm gonna pour it. I'm going to the glass again.
Damn. I feel like I need to go throw a tuxedo on. Although I feel pretty sharp in my Into the Channel, my little ITC shirt hoodie thing. We went a layer lighter than we did last week. A little warm here in SF. A little bit of a heat wave.
Nice. It's finally getting nice and cool here in the beautiful Pacific Northwest. It's about time. I'm dealing with this disgusting 80-degree, high 70-degree weather for too long. Back in the 60s, temperature-wise, where I like to live. So, I'm speaking of the ITC merch, I'm wearing my premium Into the Channel.
Let's go.
ITC hoodie as well. If you want to know what it feels like to be wrapped in the arms of 1,000 angels, that's what it feels like to wear this hoodie.
Wonderful. It certainly sounds nice and cozy. Sleepy Boys, cozy boys. Like this is. I feel a theme get generated here, but we still got a show to do. Let's get into it. A lot of football. The playoff race. This is the final stretch. We'll go ahead and congratulate the 2025 Shield winners, Kansas City Current. We were joking that they might get it done September 26th. Got it done a week before that. A cool 43 days before the final match. They get to celebrate and raise the Shield. And they do it with another 2-0 win. I've joked about that. I think when I started my little 2-0, diatribe, it was a little bit, pejorative. But now I kind of have grown to really, really appreciate the dominance of the 2-0 win. They kind of squeeze you in that first half. They get the goal that you couldn't get, and now you're chasing, and then they just break your back in the 70th or the 80th or whatever to get that second one. Their 8th 2-0 win of the season. I think kind of fluky, but also kind of indicative how they want to play. And I don't know, kind of a cool quirk.
Absolutely. And it was a great call by you. You said it's their 8th 2-0 victory of the season. It's their 5th 2-0 victory of their last 6 wins. So of their last 6 wins, they have 5 2-0 victories. Maybe that's a smarter way to say that. They just kick everybody's ass. And the more we do this, I really do believe, at least when it comes to this league, I'm an objective journalist. But for the away matches for Seattle Reign FC, I am sitting next to a Seattle Reign FC super fan who did not enjoy that match one bit, particularly the first half. But they had no chance. Seattle Reign had no chance going in there, and I don't think that's any disrespect to them. You're just not beating Kansas City Current right now. We talked about Orlando Pride in this through this lens last year. Kansas City Current, as it stands on September 23rd, 2025, if they were to play Barcelona, if they were to play Chelsea, if they were to play Lyon, if they were to play the Champions League winner, Arsenal, I think they absolutely have a chance to win any of those games, and they would be super competitive. They have the speed, the skill, the strength, and everything you need to win those games.
Yeah, certainly at full strength. I think everybody about Arsenal gives them, that's probably what we're looking at here. But their string of dominance is just, it's pretty amazing. You look at their XG for the year, 37.5, real G sitting at 40. So they're outperforming their XG, which is already like the best in the league. And then XG allowed, 14.9, real G allowed, just 10. So a little bit of the defense effect, a little bit of the Lorena effect. And they're just absolutely dominant. They're ahead by 16 points. The largest margin of victory to win a Shield is 15 in the history of the league. They're already up by 16. So if they can maintain that, that's a record setter. Largest goal differential for a whole season, 24 plus 24. That was in North Carolina Courage 2018, led by Lynn Biondolo, Dabinia, Crystal Dunn, Sammy Mewis. They're at plus 20. So they're just 4 behind that. So again, these are sort of unprecedented accomplishments that, Vladko on maybe his revenge tour. We joked about last year. Maybe that was the start of the revenge tour. Now revenge tour in full effect. Another stat that I loved defensively, the average shot distance versus KC. So not only do you have to beat Lorena, but you have to beat her from an average of 19 and a half yards away. That is definitely no fun. That's best in the league from a defensive standpoint. So, it's not just offensively, defensively. I think that has become a little bit of their backbone. And again, they're doing more than enough offensively to basically, carve out these points and grab all of these wins. 17-2-2 on the season. Unbelievable.
Yeah, plus 30 goal differential. The next closest team is Gotham FC with a plus 10.
Yep.
Orlando Pride won the double last year when they ended the season. They had a plus 26 goal differential, so Kansas City's already ahead of that pace as well.
Thanks for clarifying that. It was their goal differential was not 20. They're 20 ahead of the second place team, and that's what I meant with North Carolina too. In 2018, North Carolina was 24 goals ahead of the second place team. KC is 20 goals ahead, I believe, of Gotham. So it's the goal differential, the rarely seen GDD.
We've been doing nicely done. We've been doing this show so often and so long. I knew what you meant when you said it, and so I didn't even issue that as a correction. I don't know I knew 100% what you meant, and I was like, oh yeah, now I get to say what the goal differential is in plain terms. They just don't let you do anything. Their defense is disruptive in all kinds of great ways, and I want to say one thing that I'm really interested in seeing is, so they lift the Shield obviously very early, like you pointed out earlier, and now they have quote unquote nothing to play for these last 5 matches other than to get ready for the postseason. And I think I want to go on record right now and say I think they'll do just fine doing that. If you look at the makeup of their team, yes, they have great young players like Sentnor, Cooper, and Hutton. But think about their real leaders and the vets on the team. Lola Bonta's 32, Dabinia's 33, Rocky Rodriguez is 31, Bia is 31, Sharples is 28, and Chwenga 27. I mean, obviously, new into our lives is relatively the past couple years, women's football appreciators, but they have a good veteran mix who is going to say, hey, look, I feel like they're going to have the ability to, let's go out there. We're not going to get hurt, but we're going to stay sharp and we're going to get ready because we've won the first trophy. Now let's try to go lift the second.
I'm glad you brought this up. We're not going to fully, blow the top off of the full-blown rest versus rust conversation, but I think we could do a version of it here because I had a very similar thought, but I landed on a different conclusion. And the lens I was looking at it through was last year's Orlando Pride, who, they lift the shield later, in the process. Obviously I think they had like 3 or 4 matches left. They were closer to the finish line. And even then, they had a little bit of rust, like this Kansas City side pushed them in the semifinal. Washington pushed them in the final. Like it was definitely no walk, but I think it's a long time, man. It's 43 days until the season finale. So it's roughly 50. We're talking about 7-ish weeks. And I think these are professionals. They can stay sharp. They can stay in top condition. But then you think about these other teams, Washington, Gotham, Portland, whoever you want to think about, these teams are going to be scratching and clawing, for that 2 seed. 2 seed means you get 2 home games, and that'll carry you all the way to the final. 3 seed, 4 seed, these are important for home playoff matches as well. So these teams are going to be really chasing it, going for it, probably until the final weekend, and assuming that the health bug doesn't kind of bite some of these other teams, it's going to be a tough task. And the 8 seed, I don't think it's going to be the same Mal Swanson, less Chicago Stars 8 seed that we saw last year going to Orlando with 0 chance. I think we're going to get a relatively live 8 seed, and then you get to the 4 seed or the 4 or 5 matchup. Could be tricky. I'm going to be really interested to see how they stay sharp.
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, if you think about who's in the mix for that 8 seed with 5 matches left, you have Angel City, Racing Louisville, Houston Dash, North Carolina Courage, Orlando Pride, Seattle Reign, San Diego Wave. If they keep losing, any of those teams could kind of be there in the A spot. It would be a little bizarro world if the Pride keep not getting points. We'll talk about that later, as much as I don't think either of us want to. How bizarre it would be if you end up with the 1-8, your Kansas City, and your first match is going to could potentially be against the defending double winners. Could be very interesting. Now, it's a totally different squad, obviously, with no Barbara Benda, but you might get a little bit more Ovalle kind of used to playing in the system, and it could be one of those situations where it's like, okay, we won the league, we got the 8 seed, and now here's our reward. You end up with playing up against some fantastic talent.
Yeah, no, I think I kind of hope that doesn't happen. That would be a long afternoon for our Orlando Pride. I want to talk a little bit about the Orlando Pride. I'll go a little bit out of order here. Yeah. Last weekend, Orlando 0, North Carolina Courage 1. So you texted me on game day. I appreciate the nondescript quote. You watching the Pride? End quote. So that was your text.
No spoilers.
I knew that could mean one of 3 things. 1, Orlando's back, baby. Like, are you watching this? I'm thinking, okay, that's the first place. I'm like, maybe something's happening. 2, it's a bloodbath, and I don't want any part of it. And 3, ultimately, I think what we saw, ultimate heartbreak. Obviously, Shinomi, 89th minute, her first goal, a goal that really absolutely broke my heart as an Orlando Pride fan and follower. But then you look at Shinomi smiling and celebrating, with the rest of her team or her BFF, Manaka, and you're just like, hey, you can't feel so bad, watching a moment like that. Sure. But just a terrible stomach punchy way to lose a match that they really, really needed against a team that they're probably going to be, clawing against pretty much for whatever's left of this 2025 season.
Yeah, exactly right. And to lose that way at home, there was a moment in the first half. I can't remember who took the shot. It might have been Lemos, I think, who took the shot. The keeper is out. Marissa Jordan is off the line. And I think it was Lemos takes the shot. And Macy Bell just made a really good defensive play to get back on the line and then block it off the line. But it was one of those plays where I was just like, so just nothing gets to go right for Orlando anymore. Like, that's got to be a goal. And again, credit to Macy Bell. I'm not acting like this is luck. You could see where she purposely gets back when she sees the keeper go out. She then does the right thing as a defender and gets on the line. But I was just like, God damn, last year, that is a goal for Orlando. It felt like a stomach punch even in the first half.
At the end of the second half, too, 90+9, a very, very similar situation. The Summer Yates screamer. Yeah. And like, I think it was like 10 or 15 minutes before that North Carolina gets into the match, Natalie Jacobs, who they acquired from Houston, from Aaliyah Berkeley. And I thought Jacobs had been playing really, really well down the stretch for Houston. So that was a slick, kind of under the radar pickup, and she gets ejected into the game, Jacobs, and then she's right there, to just little bunny hop to kind of like get that header, and then even it was so much mustard on that Yates shot that it still almost snuck in, even though Jacobs made like really good contact on it, and then you're just at that point you're just like, oh, we can't even get a late equalizer here, and I think just the image of the 5 Orlando players, when you give up that backbreaker goal, and then there's just the extended 1 or 2 or 3 second beat where everyone's just lying on the ground. You're just like, I'm not getting up, like this is, I'm done. Like I can't even get up right now. Just a really tough moment for Orlando. And I think we'll see, man. Do you think Orlando will be favored in any match down the stretch based on what you saw?
Oh boy. Well, let's play.
I don't have
the schedule game.
Yeah, I should have had their schedule. I put you on the spot there.
Let's play the schedule game. I love the schedule game. So they're at San Diego Wave on Friday night. Favored? Probably not. Mm-hmm. They play Club America in the CONCACAF W Champions Cup on Tuesday. Probably will play a rotated squad in that one. But let's stick to the NWSL. Then they're at Houston, who we've talked about, looks pretty solid. And then they're home for the Thorns on October 10th. Then they're at Washington Spirit in the penultimate match of the season. I'm going to go out on a limb and say they won't be favored in that match. Maybe Washington has the 2 seeds sewed up and they're resting players. And then they're home for Seattle Reign FC, which I got to tell you, before the season started, I wouldn't have thought that would be much of a toss-up. But, man, does that game scream 0-0 draw to me right now.
That game could also scream, playoff spot up for grabs, last weekend of the season, and it might not just be those 2 teams. It might be 3 or 4 teams trying to grab 2 spots. We'll see. The North Carolina Courage, I want to talk about them a little bit. So they take on your Seattle Reign this weekend. Defensively, they've been on a pretty nice run here. I think post Sean Nahas, they've allowed 10 goals over their last 8 matches. Their shot on target percentage, though, best in the league, 31.2%. So they're forcing you into bad shots. We saw this with Orlando. Orlando was able to get pretty decent shots, but that North Carolina Courage defense, I think the way they're able to bully, it's impressive, and it's definitely a thing. It's definitely their DNA. It's definitely how they want to play, and I think it is a strategy that I think they can ride pretty deep into the later part of this season. I mean, what's your read on North Carolina? You saw them kind of strangle Orlando. Orlando's obviously struggling a little bit. I think they're coming on. I mean, I had them. I went back and I saw I had them predicted as 4th in my preseason rankings, and then I went ice cold on them. I'm just like, oh, I hate this team. I hate watching this team. And now I'm just kind of like, now I kind of get it a little bit more. I kind of get what they're trying to do. The goal was obviously a backbreaker, but I really liked that professionalism defensively. Like, they just are not going to give you anything easy. You've got to beat them with something pretty spectacular once they kind of shift into that mode.
Well, you think about my old, the trusty, they have good players mantra, where you talk about defense and offense. You have Ryan Williams, Kaylee Kurtz, Macy Bell, the aforementioned Macy Bell. Manaka looks great. Shinomi scored that first goal. They still have Courtney Vine. They have Tyler Lucy. Like, they have talent all across the roster. And even with this run of the defense playing well, especially in the last 3 matches, this still is a team that's allowed 30 goals on the season, which I think is tied for 5th most in the league. So they were really poor really early, and like confusingly so on defense particularly. But I'm sorry, did you mention they're 2 wins, 3 draws, 2 losses since firing Nahas? I know you said you said they've been better since they fired Nahas for a multitude of reasons. But I don't know. Here we go with the analysis. What the fuck do you even make of them versus Seattle Reign FC, man? I don't know. Like, which team on either side is going to show up? And I say this as a person who obviously watches every Seattle Reign Football Club match very closely, either from the press box or on television. And I just don't know who's going to show up week to week. But I'm starting to fall into a train of thought where I'm just not expecting a lot of goals.
That's fair, and that's probably you're playing a good bit of emotional defense against Seattle, which I appreciate. Just kind of it makes a ton of sense to me. This is really going to be one of those matches where it's like, what version of these clubs shows up? Seattle's not going to quite have their hands full, but they're going to have to stay alert. Pretty much 90 plus minutes to make sure they don't give this one away. And then on the Seattle side, it's kind of like you mentioned some of those players on KC. Some of those veterans. Seattle has a little bit of a different issue. I think it's kind of like take another little leap time, for some of the young players, Sally Menti, Sam Meza, Maddie Darlene, Adames, like there's even, I'm not sure the me official injury status, but even like a Madison Curry, Jordan Heitema, these are players not yet 25 years old, so you can assume there's still some growth there. There's still some evolution. These aren't fully formed players yet. And this is kind of like that point in time. You make the Biondolo signing, some of the previous moves, AMC, GSO, like some of these moves didn't sort of totally take. And now not only is it an opportunity, but Seattle's probably in need of one or two of those young players kind of taking a leap. And this is sort of when it happens, playoff time, down the stretch, a good opportunity for that. And maybe a good matchup, to kind of make that happen. And the stakes, they're absolutely there.
For sure. I think the part that could be tricky, and early in the season, it looked like Maddie Darlene might be that attacking young player to kind of take that leap. But you got to wonder, like a full season wear and tear of playing against professional athletes instead of playing against Atlantic Coast Conference athletes is just going to be different, right? Like you might have, a little tougher time being fully physically fit for the end of the matches when you're playing all these games against, grown adults, for the whole season. So, the attack, it's just not enjoyable to watch. Seattle has media availability, the morning after we record this. So I'm guessing we'll get a official update at that time. I could just tell you, part of it felt like, this is me guessing here, I had something else, a prior engagement, so I wasn't able to be on the Zoom for the post-match press conference, but I watched it. And so some of it seemed like Laura Harvey frustration just at losing 2-0, especially because she was not happy about some of the officiating in that match, which is, I don't blame her. I don't blame anybody at this point for not being happy with NWSL officiating. It's awful in a lot of cases. I digress. But Laura Harvey did not seem optimistic about Mia Fischel's injury. She said she expected it to be more than a week, but luckily the shadow executive producer of the show showed me like an Instagram reel of Mia Fischel walking in a park. She was like, maybe she's okay. And I was like, okay, yeah, maybe she's okay walking in a park. That's, yeah, understanding that's different than playing a football match, but we'll see. But yeah, I don't know, man. Like, they've scored 2 goals in their last 5 matches. And KC Current's defense is suffocating. I will say, if we want to look, I don't mean to go wholly negative on this. They were much more attacking and playing on the front foot in the second half of that KC Current match. Like, they totally flipped. I think possession was like 60-40 KC's direction in the first half. And I don't think KC was just like, okay, park the bus time. And Seattle was still able to flip the possession 60-40 in their favor in the second half. It was like a total switch. And so I thought they were able to find a little bit of joy on the wings. Nothing that really ever troubled KC too much, but at least there were some signs there. You get the ball to Curry, you get the ball to Huerta out on the wing, see if they can, kind of find some lanes and see what you could do. So I'll be interested to see how that works against North Carolina.
Obviously, KC's tough. The North Carolina defense, no walk in the park either. We'll keep an eye on that. And I think it's just going to be like a moment to, I don't know, like, I think Huerta's an interesting player because obviously she comes back over. You can see the splash pretty immediately. You're like, oh, okay, this player is going to be able to do stuff, but is it going to translate to any kind of connectivity or any kind of like, I don't know, effectiveness? And I think there's shades of it there. And what's cool is like there's just enough time left in the season to kind of to have some pivots, to have some like reroutes, and for some drama to kind of unfold here. I want to take a really quick break because I'm also just noticing that we're both rocking our ITC gear. quick update. We did launch the merch store publicly. We had some people comment on the on the video and also on the streets out here in the Bay. So shout out to everybody who gave me a little head nod, a little what's up, as I'm out here repping the brand. But ITC merch store is live. Head over to our link tree. We've got a lot of cool shit. Basically everything we're wearing. I kind of hit this point, obviously moving from Florida to the West Coast. I go from like short sleeves and hoop shorts, back to, my native hoodies and sweatpants. And maybe, the ITC merch store was an opportunity to kind of like refresh the old wardrobe a little bit with some branded gear. So I don't know. I might get in there, cook some stuff up in the lab, mix up some colors. So definitely, just stay posted. There's gonna be a lot of hot shit, just flowing through there. And as we're hitting our own playoff stretch. So I don't know. You might see some new looks here. We'll keep everybody up to speed, but definitely check out our link tree. Check out the store. If you want to grab something, obviously, we'd be immensely appreciative.
Can I just totally irresponsible just throw something out here that, like, there have been times where I've seen merch for shows that I like and be like, oh, okay, that's pretty good. I would like to see something in this color or maybe like in this style. What if people just gave us some suggestions? You could treat the YouTube comments as a suggestion box. We'll see if we can make it happen on the merch store. It seems like pretty flexible in the stuff we can design. So if there's something that fits your steez, let us know. Maybe we can put it together.
Absolutely.
That's the good part about this show, obviously. You guys drop knowledge in the comments. You give us some updates, maybe fact check us from time to time. We need that. Well, I can always take any fashion advice I could possibly get. And let's just keep it a Benny here. If I'm going to be designing something, it's going to be a black piece of clothing. So for the people who don't only wear black, just be like, hey, what if you mixed in some colors? I'll be like, oh yeah, I forgot colors. Okay, cool. We can do that. Just make sure you tell me what it is, because you can't trust me to design it myself.
It's slimming. I think we're out here doing that. I'm feeling good about how we're presenting this eve.
Don't give my secrets away. I just like wearing the color black. Nothing about slimming.
It's political statement. All right. Last quick note on Seattle. I think, obviously we talked about Seattle offensively and some of those offensive woes. Defensively, they're still there. They're still doing what they do. They're still making it, difficult. And a player that I kind of wanted to highlight a little bit, you still got Claudia Dickey back there, who, again, the good part about heading down the stretch is you don't need to figure out how to beat every conceivable team in every conceivable way. Now it's really about embracing fully that identity. Here's who we are. Here's what we're about. So Seattle, maybe behind Dickey or maybe in front of Dickey, has the chance to kind of like re-embrace that defensive identity. It's felt a little bit experimenty, a lot of lineup fluctuation. I'm curious, like, kind of what the conversation has been. You're in the room and you're hearing some of the grumblings, but is there an opportunity kind of for them to shift gears, go more defensive and be like, this is what we have to do? Or do you sort of feel like they're still tinkering with the recipe?
I don't think they could go more defensive if they tried. It's really the only way that they've been able to scratch out results, especially lately. I'm glad you bring up Claudia Dickey. So she is now second in the league in saves. She's 3 behind Mandy McGlynn for Utah Royals, with 73 saves to McGlynn's 76. But she is also she eclipsed Aubrey Kingsbury in the very nerd stat, but the very cool stat, in my view, post-shot XG minus goals allowed. So a couple weeks ago, after the victory over Racing Louisville, where they had to get that victory, they had to play the second half on a different day. I was at the post-match press conference after that second half was played, and Jess Fishlock and Claudia Dickey were available in the post-match presser. And so I gave both of those stats to Dickey. Now, Dickey was still second in the league in post-shot XG minus goals allowed. And Claudia Dickey, a young player, clearly a very humble, mindful, young athlete, gave a lot of credit to her defense and said, they force people into a lot of easy shots and I'm just out here doing cleanup duty. Well, once she gave me that kind of answer, and it's a press conference, so I didn't have the room to be like, well, actually, the post shot XG minus goals allowed means you make some really good saves too. Like, I didn't have time to get into all that with her. So I just kind of like head nodded and, thanked her for her answer. But Jess Fishlock, the leader, the captain, the legend that she is, immediately jumped in, and she had this to say.
And I think, for me, I started my career here with Hope in goal, and that's how I felt with Hope in goal. And I feel exactly the same now with Claude's in goal, and I think that is one of the biggest compliments you could ever kind of have. But that's the confidence that Claudia gives us in knowing that we have her in our net. And not just saves, but with the ball at her feet too. She's an extra player for us. And, I can't speak highly of this girl. She's been absolutely fantastic for us. So I will speak when Claudia can't speak and compliment herself.
Pretty awesome.
Pretty good. So I think the part that you can't see there is that I'm obviously sitting behind the camera asking the question, is that when Jess Fishlock evokes the name of Hope Solo, I just have absolutely no poker face and just kind of give her one of these. Because, Hope Solo, arguably the best goalkeeper of the last 25 years, like absolutely on the list, on the short list of one of the most dynamic, athletically gifted, smart, good with the ball, shot-stopping goalkeepers that, most people have ever seen. And again, like we always say, like we don't claim to be historians, but if you just look, there are, plenty of articles from people who are more historians. She's way, way, way up there. Not just like, oh, she played for the U.S. women's national team and she was good, but she had a great career for Seattle Reign and is a legendary goalkeeper. So when I said that, Fishlock then kind of said, and that's a very high compliment. Like she was kind of like, she was clearly kind of reacting off the look I gave, like, yo, that's super high praise you're giving here. And so it's interesting to say, and I don't think Jess Fishlock would just throw that around for no reason.
I don't think so either. I'm like, that it doesn't seem like something she would do. It doesn't seem like Claudia Dickey was at a moment where she needed that necessarily.
Yeah, exactly.
Didn't need that. Didn't need to be said at all. So that's kind of what makes me think that there's something to it. And it also makes me think that there's something to Dickey's game that we haven't seen. And I mentioned those players offensively. Can they take a leap? Maybe Claudia Dickey's the one that says, "Hey, I'm now that keeper in this league, and I can carry this team. I don't know to a fine. Who knows? I mean, we saw Ann Katrin Berger do what she did for Germany. Obviously for Gotham last year. So the keepers can get hot. Lorena, obviously, huge effect, on Kansas City's success defensively. So who knows? I mean, it might be Fish seeing some of the tea leaves and I don't know, something coming around the corner and wanting to get out ahead of it. She certainly got the football IQ to be able to make a claim like that. And I wouldn't give Jess Fishlock that face, but obviously you built up a little bit of rapport in there, and I trust you. So if you gave her the face, I stand by the face you gave her.
I was just surprised. It's just like a lot. It's a lot of pressure to kind of put on a young player to be like, hey, you know who you remind me of? One of the greatest goalkeepers most people have ever seen. Like it felt like a lot. And I was really surprised that she did it. But like you and I are talking about, I think she probably did it for a reason and did it because she meant it.
Mm-hmm. I told you that you remind me of a young Michael Jordan. That's it. I don't know. I don't think we've ever actually been hooping. I know we're both hoopers. Maybe when you get out to the Bay, maybe I don't know. We'll lace them up and get out there and just
get some shots up.
Yeah, man, I got good health insurance these days. Thankfully.
Yeah. No Achilles though. No Achilles injuries. Let's be safe. We'll be smart out here.
No, all stationary. Just get shots up. I love that plan.
I'm more like a Darius Garland, not a Michael Jordan, but I appreciate it.
I like that. Is that your game, Darius Garland?
A little bit, yeah. I can legitimately not
floater?
Just a white. Yeah, for sure. I love to practice the floater, and not just a white guy who says he can shoot 3-pointers. I can shoot them. I practice them.
Let's go.
I can shoot them. And I'll tell you a weird thing. This is a very odd sidebar. When he came into the league, I was like, oh, I like his shot. I feel like that makes sense. and my shot got better from watching the way he shoots.
I like it. Yeah, I think
There's just
I'm more of like a 2000s, early 2000s kind of a big forward that can pass, can shoot. I think Mike Miller is probably a good comp for how I played. I would say that's the closest comp I'd say.
I love it.
A slightly better shooter, I think, but we'll talk about that one later. Gotham, Portland. This is a big one, man. I think, we had 3 matchups of top 8 teams, and this one is probably the tastiest. 3rd place Gotham, 4th place Portland. Opens the weekend, Friday night, 5 p.m. Pacific. Gotham is here. This is a real team. They will absolutely be heard from. Portland, I feel like, has cooled off a little bit. They've been out XG'd in 6 straight matches. 1 win, 3 draws, 2 losses over that stretch, -2 goal differential over that stretch. They're in the middle of the pack defensively. Portland, I think we think about them as like, this hounding, harassing, kind of physical defensive team, but pretty much across all the major metrics, they're right middle of the road, perfectly average, maybe smidge above average defensive team. And then I think it's just going to come down to offensively, what can they do? And now they're heading to the Northeast to take on Gotham. And it's really one of those situations where it's like, I kind of feel like Gotham's going to get 2 goals. And I'm not sure Portland's going to get 2 goals. And it's going to be maybe that kind of game. I'm not sure that's kind of where these teams are at. I sort of feel like that's where these teams are at this point in the season. You can count on Gotham to kind of like piece together some offense. I love that they're sinking Esther deeper into the midfield, getting her more touches, getting her more involved. She obviously gets I think her first assist of the season. Just another thing to worry about if you have to defend Gotham. And some of those players are kind of coming on. The chemistry is kind of like picking up. And Portland, a team that started out really, really rock solid, is kind of left maybe having to reintroduce some new quirks, some new wrinkles offensively, defensively, to kind of like, I don't know, catch some of these teams off guard. I think maybe the book is a little bit out on Portland. But when you look at this matchup, obviously super high stakes. What are you going to be watching for?
Game of the week? I think it's the game of the week. It happens on on Friday. Spirit Dash, that should be really good. I'm with you, man. Gotham continues to impress. I think what happened against Bay FC was more of a hiccup than an indicator of what we can expect for the rest of the year. I mean, that Kundanaji shot was just a worldie. So like, what do you kind of throw your hands up that's going to happen sometimes. And especially in this league where weird stuff happens. But, you and I have talked about it. They got the championship DNA all over the squad. Mm-hmm. It feels like they know how they want to play, but they still have to. And I know, Jaden Shaw got the goal 2 weeks ago, but they still get to incorporate another great young player in Shaw. So last 5 matches, the only team that has more points and more goals than Gotham FC is Kansas City Current. They're just on a super heater right now. They have a +6 goal differential in the last 5, 8-4, 2 against, and 11 points, 3 wins, 2 draws, no losses. I just think they're peaking at the right time, and I don't think anybody's going to want to see them in the playoffs.
Absolutely not. And that was all of this is happening after it's kind of debilitating 3-game losing streak, that they put together before the break. And the cool part about Gotham is you mentioned Jaden Shaw, and the lack of having fully incorporated Jaden Shaw into Gotham offensively. This last week, I think Sarah Szupanski, I know didn't start. I'm not sure if she got any minutes, but there just are all of these other pieces too that Amoros hasn't had the chance to kind of like put together to get like some 2-3 player units and get some chemistry kind of going, because there has been such flux and the lineups just kind of have been changing. And I think you look at Orlando, the lineups are changing there, but it's a little bit out of desperation. You look at Gotham, the lineups are changing, and it's a little bit out of like, oh, let's see what happens when we put Jace up front and we put Esther in support of her, and we put we figure out what to do. And there's just so many moves that they can go to still, And I feel like a team like Portland, you kind of know who Portland's going to put out there. You kind of know what they're going to do. I'm not saying they've run out of stuff to go to, but going into this one, I wouldn't be shocked if we saw a new Gotham wrinkle that kind of flips this match on its head. I'd be a little bit more surprised if Portland comes out was something that's a surprise.
I think that's fair. Yeah. Portland might be more in the we know who they are, but they might have those moments where we're just like, oh yeah, that is who they are. Like, I mean, you get the occasional Moultrie fast break where she just like looks like she's shot out of a cannon to either create or score a goal. Or like just last match, she has that incredible free kick that's off the crossbar and then it's in for a tap in.
That's an assist in the ITC personal record book, by the way. Just
very, very good call by you. Of course it is. It should be. Yeah, it's one of those things where Portland will do some stuff and we'll be like, okay, yeah, like that's kind of what they do. And then Gotham might have this other gear where we're just kind of sitting back going, oh, they can do that too now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm super excited. I think I'm totally with you. That's the game of the week for me. We're getting close Friday night. That one's going to, like I said, that one's going to open the weekend. You mentioned this other match. Very intriguing. Not quite a matchup of two top 8 teams, but almost a matchup of two top 8 teams. Second ranked Washington Spirit will host the 9th ranked, just outside the playoff picks, Houston Dash. Could be a huge, I don't know, this could be a playoff preview. I could see Houston sliding up into the 7 seed and then maybe these teams kind of circling back in a month and a half. But Spirit, you mentioned it last week, when I kind of, proclaimed Spirit as maybe the team that I'd pick if they played the current the championship tomorrow. I think you're right in saying that this team is not there yet. I think we saw that in that draw versus Angel City, a good team, a team that is loaded with talent, overflowing with talent, not totally able to kind of like piece it together. But again, like I think your read was right. This team could get there, could absolutely get to the absolute apex, but they're not there just yet. So I maybe jumped the gun a little bit. I think I'm with you. And then Houston on the other side, this is a team that I feel pretty confident will make the playoffs.
I love it. I mean, and you were on it early though. Well, you like a couple weeks ago, you were already telling all of us, you were evangelizing, telling everybody, hey, look out for Houston. They're creeping up in here. I mean, I know we talk about her a lot, but Yasmin Ryan, in their last match, she's just out there calibrating, trying to figure out how she's going to score. And then what do you know? She figures out a way to score in that 1-0 victory over Chicago Stars. She did have a PK saved late in that match against Chicago, but I mean, the PK monster, Alyssa Nair, I guess no matter what uniform she's wearing, that she can just stop any PK. So the USWNT legend still has that. But yeah, a lot of things to like. If you kind of look at the recipe and you have a reliable goalkeeper in Jane Campbell, who has been a little up and down this season, I think is probably fair to say. But then you have a superstar in Avery Patterson and a superstar in Yasmin Ryan, kind of as your bookends on like both ends of the field, you usually have a pretty good chance.
Yeah, I think Yasmin Ryan has been incredible like this year. I think, she's sort of like not quite superstar status, but she's certainly, to quote Leanne, got some superstar status potential in her locker. I think it's just a matter of like, the pacing of getting there, but I think she has all the tools and she's such a great player. Delaney Sheehan, really good player as well, having a really good season. I thought Michelle Lozier in this one at right back, opposite Avery Patterson, created a lot of problems, for the defense. Her work rate was awesome. She was up and down, like up and back, like pretty much nonstop, and really embracing that role, which I thought was really great to see. Houston has lost Maggie Graham and Sophie Schmidt to season-ending injury. We talked about the Natalie Jacobs trade. That one hurt. I agree with you on Jane Campbell. A little rocky, but has made some spectacular saves this season, like some real highlight saves. And again, like, now it's just about, all right, now these are the championship rounds. Last 4 or 5 matches. Can we get in the playoffs? How long can we survive in the playoffs? There's a maximum 5 matches. There's only a maximum of 8 matches left in the season. So whoever wins the title is going to go through these 5, win the next 3, and then that's it. So you don't need a ton down the stretch. And I think Houston's the kind of team that you look at what they've done since the summer break: 4 wins, 3 draws, 1 loss. That's not the makeup of like a cellar a cellar dwelling team that I think we've looked at Houston and kind of seen them right in that vein the last year and a half, we'll say. But 4-3-1 since the break, and their 4 wins. They beat the North Carolina Courage. They went to Gotham, beat them. They went to San Diego and beat them, and then they beat the Chicago Luzmilas that were on absolute fire, at home, but got that done as well. And it's tough to win matches in this league. And you look at the side like Houston, I don't think anybody would have predicted this team's going to win 4 matches of 8 after the summer break. Like this is a real run for a team. And now it's less of a cute story. And now we've shifted into this team's going to make the playoffs, and this team's going to like maybe ruin some teams' chances down the stretch by stealing a result that I don't think anybody would have expected when you look at that on the schedule maybe a month or 2 ago.
Yeah, I think it's definitely on the board. You mentioned Sheehan, Colaprico has good experience. Clarissa Larissi, always got to be careful around that name. Clarissa Larissi. I always feel like I'm gonna butcher it. Obviously, BK Hacken legend. I don't know if she reached legendary status at BK Hacken, but I always enjoy
working on legendary status in Houston. I mean, this is some
right.
way to start your NWSL career. Let's go.
That's what I'm talking about. So yeah, I always get a kick out of when we covered the UEFA Women's Champions League, with our maiden voyage back in 23. It's funny to now see her playing for the Houston Dash, going from BK Hacken. So yeah, they got the experience. They have smarts. Now it's what kind of spoiler can they play, and how high can they climb on the table? Could they get can you get to the 6th seed? Is that available to them? So what? They're sitting on 26 points. Seattle Reign's sitting on 30. You want to tell me in 5 matches they can't catch them, Orlando and North Carolina? I think they could.
So you look at their schedule. They've got they've got to go to Washington. That's gonna be tough. Then they host Orlando, right? That's a 6-pointer, and they're playing that Houston Heat. They go to LA to take on Angel City. We'll see what happens there. There could be some points on the table. Kansas City Current at home, not a ton to play for. It's not, I mean, I don't know. And then you have to go to Portland.
Love the schedule game.
Then you got to go to Portland, close the season. That one could be tricky, but who knows? Maybe at that point, Houston's got the 6 seed sewn up, and then they can't move up nor down. And that one doesn't totally matter, but we'll see. I don't know. Count me as a Houston enthusiast.
There you go. Sitting sideways. Listen, Houston Dash. Houston Dash. I mean, come on, man. It's a great city. The reason I love the schedule game so much is that we can go through and be like, Kansas City Current won't have anything to play for. So far and away the best team in the league, but it's still a fun game to play and be like, maybe they'll be resting everybody. Yeah, fully rotated squad. Yeah, on October 18th. And then going to Portland, one of the, historically great franchises in the league. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see where they're at. But I think, looking at that last 5, the fact that they have Spirit, Kansas City, and Portland in 3 of the 5, not great. And I don't like saying that the 2 softest matches on their schedule remaining are home versus Orlando and then at LA. Or Angel City, pardon me. But it's going to be interesting no matter what. I'll be locked in, man, because Houston they have really surprised this season, and it's been a real pleasant surprise.
Yeah, man. So what do we think? 10, 12 points down the stretch for the Dash?
There we go.
12.
Let's go.
Let's go. All right, we'll keep it locked. Well, either way, Washington, Houston this weekend, Sunday morning. Ooh, Sunday morning. We get a little brunch matchup, 10 a.m. Pacific. We get to watch Spirit Dash. Well, I get close to putting a little bow on the weekend. Seattle and the Courage officially close it out 5 p.m. Pacific on Sunday. And then there's a little, I coined Saturday's action, Elimination Saturday, because we've got 10th place Racing Louisville hosting 11th place Angel City. That one kind of feels like if one of the teams wins that one, if they split the points, that's something different. But if either Louisville or Angel City wins that one, that's going to make a big difference. And then just for shits and gigs, 12th place Bay FC versus 13th place Utah Royals. So those 2 matches going down on what we've coined Elimination Saturday.
Bay FC versus Utah Royals. Who is more hell-bent on ruining the other team's day? just ruining their weekend. It's I love to draw the parallels between college American football and women's football, and or just football in general. And I just think sometimes you have these matches that are just absolute rock fights, and where I think like when you're 3/4 of the way through a game, where it's just like these teams who don't really have any kind of real rivalry, they just hate each other right now. And they just want to punish everybody who's wearing the different color shirt than they are. And that's usually a good watch.
It could have the makings. You mentioned Kunanaji's goal last week. That was definitely worth a shout. Mina Tanaka's goal last week. Come on. I mean,
let's go.
Anybody that didn't see that, maybe one of the goals of the season, just an incredible display of skill. I mean, that goal was pretty much why I watched the sport. I mean, it's an unbelievable display. And I mean, side note, I love the name Mina Tanaka.
Great name.
The flip-flopping of the consonant and the vowel, just kind of all the way through. It's got such a ring to it and just such a fantastic player. So I don't know, we could be in for a 5-4, 2 red cards, just crazy, nobody wants to play defense. Let's put some highlights on tape kind of matchup. Nothing really to play. Like, I don't know. Why can't we do that? I don't know. Let's decide that we're just going to open it up from jump, and we're just going to have some target practice out there.
After dark match on Saturday, I'm going to take a guess here. Well, I think, it's going to be on Ion, Saturday Night Football. Ion, NWSL After Dark has all the makings for just a bonkers game. Yeah,
let's get crazy. All right. Last quick thing I wanted to hit. The Ballon d'Or. First of all, congratulations, ITC Hall of Famer and now 3-time Ballon d'Or winner, Aitana Bonmatí. I want to stop there. What was your take when you saw that Aitana takes home the award?
So she joins Lionel Messi and Michael Platini, French midfielder in the 80s, as the only players to ever win the Ballon d'Or 3 consecutive times. Lionel Messi won it 4 consecutive times between 2009 and 2012. I got to tell you, pretty good company to keep for Aitana Bonmatí. I did see some hand-wringing on the internet, if you can believe it, hand-wringing on the internet. But I'll say, like, it's one of those ones where could you make an argument that maybe another Spanish player who plays for Arsenal Football Club had a better overall season than Aitana Bonmatí? Sure, I think you can. But when the overreaction machine starts going and people call it like it's a disgraceful decision and blah, 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 it's not. She's like pound for pound, still probably the best footballer in the world. Could you make an argument that somebody may have had a better season or a better year than her? Sure. But, sometimes you got to think about like, okay, are we talking, it's the classic MVP argument. Are we talking about who had the best year? Who's the best player that year? It's kind of, however you might feel about it. So, like you said, congratulations to her. She's a historic player who deserves a historic accomplishment. And now go ahead and shill for Mariona Caldente, please.
I'm actually not going to shill for Mariona. Like, obviously,
really?
The player that I love. Yeah. I am going to shill for a different player, though. Because.
What?
Yes. Hear me out here. I'm going to take you on a little journey. Obviously, unassailable Aitana Bonmatí, unassailable Mariona Caldente comes over to Arsenal from Barcelona. Just brings the Champions League trophy with her. I'm not giving this up. I don't care where I'm playing. Wherever she plays,
sure.
Bring the trophy. She could come play for Houston Dash and they'd probably win the Champions League. But this year, 2025, obviously I welcomed a daughter to the world. I'm not sure I'm just going to be bouncing my daughter on my knee 10 years from now and talking to her about Aitana Bonmatí's 2025 season. But
sure,
whose season I will be talking to her about? Chloe Kelly. And
wow.
I know it's weird.
Let's go.
Chloe Kelly finishes 5th in the voting, right? And I thought about this very deeply because one of the big knocks on Chloe Kelly, she's a sub. Not starting. She did all of that, produced all of that in a fraction of the minutes.
That's fair.
and she, you think about these moments for Arsenal down the stretch, for England down the stretch. The flashbulb moments of like the penalty kicks and just the celebrations. This was, and it's, I don't care if it runs counter to what we do and how we think about this award. This season was Chloe Kelly's season. When the Wikipedia page of the 2025 WOSO, season gets published, Aitana Bonmatí will appear on that page below Chloe Kelly. And I think for me, I used the Max Kellerman, who would I have rather been in that boxing match round, to score. That's kind of how he famously scores. Who would I have rather been this season, 2025? I mean, it's not even an argument. Like the moments out of this world, the trophies out of this world. You do this as a sub, like it's just fucking insane. Like, so I don't know. I would have probably been a weirdo and been maybe the only one to give Kelly a first place vote, but that would have been my vote. I think she was the player of this year.
I love it. I mean, I didn't expect it coming from you. I expected the full court press on Caldente, and like you said, kind of unassailable. I think she had a real argument. Am I looking at the right results here? Sorry, now I'm in full on panic mode. Alessia Russo finished third?
Yeah.
Okay. So that is okay.
Weird,
I just
right?
want to make sure I was looking at that. Yeah. So you gotta have Kelly above Russo. And again, if we're talking about who's the best player, how I'm not exactly breaking new ground here, but how I feel about Alexia too, in terms of just raw talent and what she the way she's able to just drive everything. But you kind of sold me. You kind of sold me a little bit on Kelly. I think that if we were going to have a 1, 2, 3, it should be some order of Bonmatí, Caldente, and Kelly. I think that would have been the right mix, and you couldn't go wrong with any of the three.
Yeah, Kelly 1, Bonmatí, Caldente, 2A, 2B. I think that what are we talking about? And I think for anybody up in arms about the Ballon d'Or voting, right? So this is obviously this weird. You've got Marta 2 spots ahead of Barbara Benda. That's weird. NWSL MVP Tema Chawinga, clocks in at, where was she? 17th. I mean, I'm an Arsenal fan. Steph Catley at 29th is, what are we going to do about that?
That's a choice.
It is a choice. What I would say, anybody at home, don't look at the bottom of the list. The bottom of the list is a total absolute shit show. There's so many great players that are just making zero. I don't know what we're doing. But if you look at that top 5, top 6, I think that's a good representation of what's happening in Europe. I don't think globally. And then you get to Leah Williamson, Eva Paior, and Lucy Bronze. Now you're just okay, now we're going a little bit off name recognition once you get to that point. But I think top 5, top 6, if you look at it through the European lens, I think they got it pretty close. My only quibble, obviously, I would have had Chloe Kelly at the absolute top just for the season. You remember back in the day when a team would win a championship and immediately after Sports Illustrated would run that commercial of hey, get this special Sports Illustrated cover with I don't know, the Los Angeles Dodgers celebrating, and then you get this VHS or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely, buddy.
On both that bounded book and that VHS or DVD or Blu-ray or however you want to think about that, the cover is Chloe Kelly. However you want to think about that, that's the person that you're putting there. You're not putting the legend, ITC Hall of Famer, another unassailable player, one of the all-time greats, Mount Rushmore, Aitana Bonmatí. That's not who's on the cover of the 2025 recap. And I'll just kind of leave it there. Those are my very short, but also sort of long Ballon d'Or thoughts. So I appreciate you bearing with me.
Oh, I love it. I think you're spot on. I will say though, Eva Paior, I do just want to state that she had 43 goals in the 24-25 season. I just want to she had a lot of fucking goals. She's awesome. But yeah, they're Barcelona has a lot going for them. But to your Sports Illustrated magazine special champion box set, Chloe Kelly is on the cover of that because she both helped win the Champions League and win the Euros. So Aitana Bonmatí didn't lift either of those trophies, so it would be hard for anybody to put her on those championship covers. So it's a great point by you. Came out of left field, man. I absolutely 100% expected you to cape up for Caldente in that spot. So you've done it again, my good man. You always, to use the boxing analogy, that left hook completely cold cocks me. I'm out cold here.
You know what? I would never do that in real life too.
I appreciate
it. Figuratively on the show, I like to kind of like, a little smoke and mirrors, pull one over on you.
There it is.
Quick episode calendar. We're going to be back next week to go into the NWSL again. But more importantly, I try it again. Sleepy boys getting sleepy.
Of course.
We've got a UEFA Women's Champions League mega preview coming your way. Your boys are a little heartbroken. SK Braun, we didn't get the tournament that I think we hoped for, but it does have the effect of kind of untethering us a little bit. I'm an Arsenal fan. I'm sort of going in. Now we're looking at what's happening. We'll have an eye on Lyon and what's happening there. But to any NWSL fans that are sort of like maybe ready for that maiden UEFA Women's Champions League voyage, maybe I can interest you in a little Barcelona, Chelsea, Lyon, Bayern Munich, Arsenal. How about Lindsay Heaps, Lily Johannes playing over at Lyon? Chelsea is going to be sporting some Katerina Macario, Naomi Girma, Alyssa Thompson for you NWSL heads. We got a little PTJ, Valentellis Joyce. Manchester United is still bummed that they got through, but here we are. And then my Arsenal, little Emily Fox, Jenna Neiswanger. What have you done for me lately? Are you still playing? Are you still active? What do we get? Like, is there any room for Neiswanger to make a reappearance here? But in short, a lot of American players, a lot of recognizable faces, a lot of NWSL stars that have kind of gone back and forth, and just the absolute upper echelon of European women's football. So the best time of year, you've said it time and time again, the best tournament, the best competition, and we're ready to kick off. I think group stage, we're 2 weeks away, October 7th. I'm not sure, around the 8th, 7th, 8th, and 9th, somewhere around there. Group stage kicks off. We'll be back with a preview and look at all 18 teams duking it out in the group stage, the new format, all the new machinations. We'll have all of it for you. So make sure you're subscribed, and you just get ready to buckle up, because it's going to be another great Champions League ride.
It always is, my good man. The UEFA Women's Champions League is a celebration of life, but women's football in Europe is entering a new era with the UEFA Women's Europa Cup. And let me just tell you, I'm going to just make the pitch right now that perhaps we should become the internet's greatest UEFA Women's Europa Cup podcast, because in the qualifier there, Hammarby versus Braun, we're going to have to check that out. We're going to have to lock in. Hopefully it's going to be available to watch somewhere. I'm just going to make the petition now. I feel like we should carve out some time for that tournament as well.
Done and done. Totally agree. No reason not to. You already know there's going to be some good clubs in that mix as well. Very excited to dip a little toe in there, and an abundance of great football. What more could we ask for? But with that said, anything else you want to hit before we get out of here?
I think that's it. I mean, if I could just, very, very quickly, Ajax is going to play in the Europa Cup, Rosengard, Sporting CP, Eintracht Frankfurt. I mean, we got a lot of good teams in there. Glasgow City, and then obviously the glorious SK Braun. So, look, sometimes there are different paths to get to the Champions League. So the path for Braun to get to next year's Champions League, at least in the third round qualifying phase, is to just win the Europa Cup this year. So that's what SK Braun has decided to do. That's totally fine. We'll be there along the way.
Hell yeah. And the path for you to be in the Champions League with us, just hit that subscribe. Just rock with us. We're going to be pretty much covering every minute of Champions League action that happens from here on out. So you know what time it is. And with that said, this has been another episode of Into the Channel. Thank you for watching, listening, hanging out. If you enjoyed the show or love women's football as much as your boys do, make sure you're kicking it with us each and every single week. Like, subscribe, follow YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you like to watch or listen. Our Patreon, definitely go sign up for that. We're doing a lot of fun stuff. Member shout-outs. We'll have interviews with players, coaches, voices of the game. You'll have early access to those 3 days early, 72 hours early. So definitely hop over to Patreon or YouTube memberships. You can just hit the join button on YouTube, find our Patreon link in the description of each and every episode. Leave us a review over your favorite podcast app. Links to all of our socials, except one, the show notes of this episode. And a big thank you to my co-host as well, Mr. Grant Engle, I saw a video of you walking through the park, no limp, just looking physically 100% ready. And that bore true. You showed up for tonight's episode 110% ready, and I think we absolutely crushed it. I appreciate you, bro.
Likewise, buddy. You know what? You don't got to get ready if you stay ready. I think that's one of the mottos of this program, and that's what we appreciate about all of you. Thank you for continuing to rock with us, always dropping knowledge in the comments, making sure that we stay sharp and stay smart, and we will see you all next time.
Stay sleepy.